Hey guys, and welcome to the FPL Tips YouTube channel for finally another video. It's been a good long time, but here we are back with some mutual time available to have a pod together, and with the important and final part of the 2024-25 FPL season on its way, and this chip strategy discussion being the key. So we are back here to discuss our thoughts and what could possibly be the different chips that can be played. What is a wild card, especially because most people will be looking to wild card this week or next week, and what is the trade-offs between that, and so on. But before we begin, welcome Anshuman. It's been a while. How's it going, buddy?
Yeah, it's been a while, but I think it's a great time to come back to this sort of important fixture congestion and the chip strategy. I think most people are looking out for help, and I think we should straight dive into the topic. I most likely need the help. Same as I'm in the same situation of wildcarding when and then when to play my chips out. So let's get into that. Excited.
Yeah, yes. And yeah, just beginning with how it's been going and what's coming up. We had just got completed with a blank game week 29, which I don't think was the best of weeks for a lot of people, but like not to worry about too much. Blank game weeks do end up being a little swingy here and there, but we have the more exciting double game weeks that are going to come soon. This is Ben Krellin's chart, which shows all the possible or likely blank game weeks and double game weeks throughout the season. We have game week 32 that has the confirmed double game week for Newcastle and Crystal Palace. Newcastle play Man United at home and Crystal Palace at home, while Crystal Palace have Man City away and Newcastle away. And that's our immediate double game week that's coming up, and that's the one which is confirmed. In game week 33, there might mostly be a double game week and likely double game week for Man City and Aston Villa, where Ben Crellin has given an 85 to 90% chance, when a likely blank game week in 34 with Aston Villa and Man City blanking, because game week 34 is the weekend where the FA Cup semi-finals will take place. And this is where there will be a clash with the Premier League games, so there will need the fixtures will need to be moved. So it's likely to happen in game week 33 because there's a free midweek, and game week 34 also has a free midweek, but it is a European week. So for teams who are still in Europe, like Aston Villa, Manchester United, Arsenal, if they have a sort of dilemma in game week 34 scheduling, that might will most likely come to game week 33, and there will be a double game week in game week 33, while game week 34 will be a blank game week. And that's where the big chips will generally be useful, because the teams that are doubling in game week 33 will be likely blanking in game week 34, which is probably going to be the reason why you'll need a wild card or a free hit to navigate that per time. And if you have a bench boost, game week 33 might be a good time to play it as well. So that's largely the landscape over here. And then going after that, we also have a possible game week in 36, 37, which is a little far away. So I don't think we should discuss much into that. But largely looking into the possible double game weeks, so what are your thoughts, and where are you, and how exciting do you think the following weeks are in terms of having doubles for certain good teams also over there?
Yeah, certain good teams. Newcastle not going back to back is kind of off. Like, I think majorly for me it depends on Crystal Palace film. I think for most people it will be the same scenario of how they pan out their chips. The only dilemma is now 32 versus 33 bench boost to me. I think that's where most people would likely want to focus because that's how they want to wildcard that. But apart from that, doesn't seem like a large double game week in 33 as well. So it doesn't really appeal me. It does definitely has diminished to me personally. But yeah, we play with whatever we have.
Yeah, it's sort of different from what it was the previous seasons, where there were like plenty more postponed fixtures, and we've also had like a flux of different reasons for postponements over the last 3-4 seasons.
Yep.
Before that, I remember like the FA Cup quarterfinals, semifinals, and finals would have postponements along with the Carabao Cup final, and that used to be the standard. But then during COVID, we had postponements due to COVID, postponements due to the weather, postponements due to the death of the Queen. So all these things added a lot of double game weeks and more fixtures to go through and navigate. While when it comes to this season, we are back to the traditional way. I think there was one because of the weather, but it's
Yep.
mostly been very I mean,
Stand, yeah.
predictable in terms of the fixtures. When will the blanks come? When will the doubles come? And Yeah, and that's been the simple part of it, and that's why there are not like too many exciting doubles, not too many teams that double. But still, it's a double game week, and you'll get like more fixtures to play with, and some teams to play around in terms of using your chips in terms of seeing when you can bench boost your free hit triple captain, and you also have your assistant manager freshly in this season as well.
Yep.
I think
That's true.
we can maybe just quickly just touch upon the game week 36, 37. This is not too important, but there's possible that in game week 36 or game week 37 could be a blank, because this season, this is Lego Mane's chart where he has put all the spacings of different competitions in FA Cup, Premier League, Europa League as well, and European games as well. And then you have the FA Cup final in game week 37, which means that might be a blank game week. There is a free midweek after game week 37 for everyone but the Europa League finalists. So if Tottenham move to the Europa League final and Aston Villa suppose play in the FA Cup final, that might be a blank game week most likely, and then the game week 36 might be a double game week. So even after using all your chips at that point, you might still need to navigate it. But that being said, it's going to be very likely a very small double game week and a blank game week. So I'm sure like a lot of people will be well placed to navigate these fixtures. But it's just to touch upon that and saying that if people have a lot of chips left and don't know when to play exactly what, there might be a chance that you get a game week 36 to play or say assistant manager or a triple captain as well.
Yeah, that's true. That will help people, especially with triple captain and assistant managership, I believe. But that's like a very, very like if this happens, then that, and then a blank game week scenario. Most likely, I would say let's be like people who are planning that long term shouldn't really keep think about it. I think if it happens, good, but most likely we should assume that it won't happen.
Yeah, and especially in the case of an assistant manager, you can maybe leave it to the last three game weeks of the season and just take the double game week if it's a bonus. If you're not, I'm not sure how like easy it'll be to
It
use it
gives you the
earlier.
same amount of games in any which ways. Like if you pick Aston Villa and
Yeah,
Nottingham guys, it gives you the same amount of games. So it for an assistant managership, it won't make that much of a difference. Maybe a bit fixture you can go and argue that you get an extra fixture if like you want to take Emery or Postecoglou, but I don't think for that purpose it won't make a large difference in my opinion. Because then again, there's a
yeah,
transfer cost associated.
yeah. And also when the assistant managership had come and we were looking at historically how it has done in terms of fixtures, we've seen a lot of like high upside for that chip, a lot of table bonus opportunities towards the end of the season. But this season seems a lot different when compared to that, because the league is pretty much uh, like comfortable for Liverpool. And also coming to the relegation battle, all the three teams are pretty much relegated at this point. I don't think there's a like very little chance for any of them to come up. So there's not going to be many interesting fixtures. A lot of teams will be ending up in the beach, and then there'll be like 5 6 teams will be competing for Europe towards the end. And I'm really not very confident about how this would be the best time to use the assistant manager as well. But we can come to that a little later. We can carry on with looking at how things are right now, because for people who have not free hitted, which is quite a lot of people, you have a team that might need a lot of surgery. That might have like banned players, injured players, um, and also some players who are not really in good form. Like you might have a Cole Palmer who has injuries, who also is like off form. You might want to get in a Haaland who's really having good fixtures right now. You might want a Bruno Fernandes who's in very good form as well. And also like sort of plan long term, because in that term you can also be able to um, like you use the wild card to tackle the blank game weeks and double game weeks. And mainly, I think a lot of people who have been like not used the free hit in game week 29 would have very minimal Crystal Palace and Newcastle players, which means that they have the immediate double. And to bring in their players, you'll need to wildcard either this week or next week.
Yeah.
So yeah, what do you think about the wildcard, and who are the teams that you're targeting as of now?
I feel if your team is kind of requiring those transfers this week is slightly like it's better to me in my opinion, because I don't see a very drastic difference in terms of player selection for 31 and 30. There are the obvious picks obviously when you like start want to targeting certain teams. Like Bournemouth has a good fixture this week, so if you're wildcarding you might want you'd be tempted to pick one of them, but next week you'll sort of contemplate. But given the options that we have in midfield, I think it's a decent one. It's also the information bias that we have, that there is you get more information and confirmed results. But I'm okay with the amount of transfers we have going into 33 at all. And if at all likely 33, like the FA Cup fixtures don't go fall in place, if they don't happen to be results that we want for 33 bench boost, it's anyways a 32 bench boost, which you will most likely be prepared with your current wildcard. That's my opinion as of now. I mean, you have thought about this much more deeper. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, just before we continue, I just like to say that we'll have the FA Cup results on the 30th of March. So 29th and 30th is the weekend, as soon as the international break is done, where the uh, FA Cup fixtures are taking place. Brighton will be playing Nottingham Forest, Aston Villa will be playing Preston, Man City will be playing Bournemouth, and fourth, I think Palace will be playing Fulham. So these are the four fixtures, and there are seven Premier League teams in that. So whoever is going to go through that we'll be getting to know that by the 30th of March. And I think the 1st or 2nd of April is the deadline for I think it's the 1st of April. So you will have 2 days to sort of take in all the information and build wildcard drafts if you are going to wildcard in 30. But a lot of people who are like looking through the fixtures, like Ben Krellin, Talia Nadeem, and Planet FPL, are sort of like likely looking at game. You're not sure if you'll be knowing these fixtures before game week 30 deadline, which is sort of the short and the dark. That's the cons which we are looking at over here. You don't know when these fixtures exactly take place. Historically, these guys have done a great job in predicting it at the exact time where the fixtures will be taking place. But this year, Premier League have behaved a little differently, in the way they have scheduled the Aston Villa Liverpool double, in the way they have scheduled the Newcastle Crystal Palace double, in weeks where European fixtures are happening. So that could happen again. So that might be the reason why like not too many people are 100% confident on these fixtures exactly falling in double gaming 33. But I think the pros are outweighing the cons over here when it comes to attacking the same set of players, because a lot of people will be having Newcastle Crystal Palace in that particular game week. And also will be having Man City players because they have good fixtures and they also might are likely to double. And other than that, you can maybe look into the fixtures. So suppose Bournemouth beat Man City and Bournemouth and Man United double, that is very likely to fall in game week 33. So because Man United will be playing Europe, then you can load up on your Bournemouth who have Ipswich, and then we have West Ham, they have Fulham, and then they have a double game week, which is not too bad. And they are little hot and cold at the moment, but they have good players. They have a good attacking functional team. They press really well. So they do look like a good team as well. And if Palace do double in game week 33, that means Arsenal are also going to double in game week 33, and Arsenal also have good fixtures. So you have a reliable set of teams who you can count on in the game week 30 wild card, as well as the game week 31 wild card, who have good fixtures long term, which makes it a good bet to wildcard in game week 30. And also, like for teams where transfer or two in game week 30 is certain, like if you have to remove Cole Palmer if he's injured, or if you still have Trent, you have to remove him. If you have one of Gordon or Cunha or someone who's not playing right now, and if you need to do surgery in your team this week, it's better to just wildcard this week and not bother using that transfer. And like if you have one or two transfers, hold that towards next week, because if you're using that transfer this week, it's a transfer for just 1 week. and like that transfer might be more valuable in terms of opportunity cost in the future game weeks when you're using it for the double game week 33.
You
So
anyway
that's
carry forward
also.
transfers, so that it won't really make a difference. You
Hmm?
might as well just you carry forward transfers any which way, so you might as well carry
Yes,
forward it and
yes, yes.
use wildcard
That's
already.
that's the thing that this season has changed, where you can carry forward your transfers, and that really changes this, and which is why I think wildcard and Game Week 30 might really be the thing. But you'll have to be prepared with a few drafts just before the deadline, because you'll have very less time to react to the FA Cup fixtures, and have to sort of draw a few scenarios on if a particular team wins or loses, what is the
Yeah.
strategy you're gonna go ahead with. But that's largely how it will look to target. But let's look at some of the teams. I think Newcastle and Crystal Palace do look obvious at the moment because they have a double game week in game week 32. Crystal Palace are likely to could probably double in game week 33. And if you load up on these people, these players, you'll have a like a rough strategy on when to free hit as well, based on the FA Cup results. So, I mean, who catches your eyes from these teams, and what are the teams that you're looking to target in your wild card if you are doing it at this point?
For me, it's like three teams that stand out. Is probably Newcastle, City, and then both Crystal and Nottingham. I think those three teams. Salah is a given. I'm not going to mention how essential he is, but I think those 3-4 teams are more likely going to grab my attention because they're most likely will be in talks of a double in 32, 33, have good fixtures around it. So it's easy to navigate your strategy around them.
Yeah, and particularly which players. I think there are some players
There are a lot
where
of, yep,
you'll have a given over there. I think when it comes to Newcastle, I think Isak will be number one in your team. When it comes to Crystal Palace, Munoz and Mateta are also probably going to be right there because they're like very reliable in good form. And sort of a couple of them are on penalties, and Munoz himself, you've seen how attacking he is,
yep.
and how like he has a desire to play like right up. And Crystal Palace are really on the up. If you can look at their particular stats over here, they are the best defensive team over the last 6 game weeks, and also the best attacking team in the last 6 game weeks. They've had good fixtures, like not to deny that, but last season also we saw the same trend towards the end. They really clicked together, and they exactly knew what they were doing, and they sort of have a really functional team right now as well. Isaiah has played 390 minutes on the trot. He's been very lively. You also had Wharton who's come back. You've had your injury issues who have been sorted, and really playing well at this point, Crystal Palace. So that's sort of the reason why uh, this whole narrative is built around game week 30, 31 wildcard, because you're not just backing any team. It's a team that's in good form. And same with Newcastle. They'll have their confidence sky high after winning the Carabao Cup, and they will be trying to use that confidence to push for a big European spot. They are still in the in the
Yeah,
race
the
for the Champions
Champions
League.
League. They're still
Yeah,
there.
they are in the run for the Champions League. They could still even go to the Europa League, and I think they will take that as well. So it's a big stiff competition over there, and they have a lot to play for, which makes them a very good option as well. And same with Nottingham Forest, as you did mention. Not sure if Nottingham Forest will double, but they do have decent fixtures coming up. They've done with their difficult fixtures of playing Arsenal, Man City, Liverpool, and so on. But now they'll be only playing teams that are below them, and teams they'll be confident to beat. And they are playing really well as well. They are keeping clean sheets. Their attack is clicking, and they are having a very very good season. And they are really a front runner to get the Champions League spot, which will be out of the moon for them. And they'll continue to play with the same level of confidence. So I think Nottingham Forest are also a team that will need to be kept an eye on.
Yeah, I think those majorly those teams. I'm not a huge fan of Bruno given the fixtures. And neither I see you mentioned Saka in the notes for pros and cons, but I don't think I'm interested in Aston attack either. It's just so unreliable at this point. And even if Saka returns, how fit he is, how what form he is in, it's a long road as of now to me. So I think these four
Yeah,
teams score really lies of a
mm.
wild.
And from this table itself, Arsenal, you'll mainly be looking at the defense, maybe even to double up.
Yeah, yeah,
Going back to the fixtures, Arsenal do have good fixtures from now till the end of the season. I mean, they have some decent home fixtures where they could keep clean sheets, but it's not. They have certain good fixtures where you have Everton, Brentford, Ipswich, uh, and Crystal Palace, Bournemouth, Newcastle are sort of middling, but then Southampton to end the season. So you can see a few clean sheets coming up for them. Maybe if Saka is back, the one thing that I think will be very likely is Gabriel will be getting more chances when as a set piece. He's not been he's been really dried up with his chances at this point because he's not getting quality set pieces. Odegaard is not, or Nwaneri are not at the same level of Saka when it comes to the pinpoint corners or set pieces that's been taken by Bukayo Saka, which I think is very good as well. From a point of Gabriel, but I think Arsenal's defense is currently still elite and can be counted upon. And if they are to double in game week 33, I think I would definitely look to bring in an Arsenal defender or two in your drafts because I don't think I see too many defenses other than maybe Crystal Palace and Munoz where you can count upon them so much. Um,
I think yeah, certain players just take it up automatic. I think even Man City. I, I'm actually not in favor of a Man City defender. I think the obvious spots go to a Newcastle defender because they double and have like good fixtures. Then there is an Arsenal defender. Crystal Palace, Munoz again, double possibility of a double, good fixtures, good defensive numbers. I think the fourth one would be Nottingham Forest defender for me. They've shown that they can sort of have the defensive numbers, they can keep clean sheets, their fixtures there around. So I think most of it gets picked up by itself. And then fifth spot really wouldn't matter much. I think people will go for a cheaper one.
Yeah, and I mean, there are quite a few interesting teams to look at over here who could possibly double as well. I'd like to first touch upon Bournemouth a little bit because they were high on a lot of people's teams, but have not really delivered up to what you'd expect from them. I think Kluivert has done decently, but Semenyo and Dango have disappointed. Evan Nilsson didn't blanked in game week 30 as well. But now they have Ipswich at home in game week 30 and carry on with West Ham away, Fulham at home, maybe a double if they beat City in the FA Cup. They'll have Crystal Palace and Man United, but their defensive data, which was so good when you looked at a few weeks back, I think 6-7 weeks back when you saw they were top three, top four, but now they are 15th in the list in the table when it comes to expected goals conceded in the last 6 games. There are people who are looking at Hoyce and Kirkes. So and also in terms of attack, they have not been at that level where they were showing. They were showing a lot of form, but with the fixtures continuing to be decent, will it be? Is it the time to run out of patience from Bournemouth assets, or like they are still good value and you can continue backing them maybe?
I think their attack is much more of value. Kirkes has been good too. So like that's been the thing with him. He's getting those odd assists here and there. So it justifies his value at this moment. That's why people have been holding on to. Given ahead as well, if you look at from a bench boost perspective, and if you can go back to the fixture ticker, their fixtures in 32, 33 primarily are Fulham and Crystal Palace. Both are semi decent. I don't expect clean sheets. So if that's your fifth defender and that's what you want, you probably can skip out and look for other defensive options. There could be maybe an Aston Villa defender if 32 is your primary target, or you can look at other options too. Maybe double up on Nottingham. They look like a team who can
Yeah,
keep a clean sheet against Everton and Tottenham. And also
yeah.
Everton still, I mean, I wouldn't really rule them out for a clean sheet. Like a Mikalenko can stay in your team if he's already been for a
Hmm.
low value.
Yeah, Everton. I don't think they have good fixtures at this point. They have Liverpool away, Arsenal, Nottingham Forest, Man City, and Chelsea in the next five. But the last four fixtures, they play Ipswich and Southampton. So if you maybe have them, like just take the maybe not blank of lack of clean sheets on the chin. Maybe get lucky with one of clean sheets,
No,
and towards the end of the season, you can maybe
so,
have.
so like my idea, or my thought is that you have a Newcastle defender, you have an Arsenal defender, and you have a Crystal Palace defender regularly playing in your team. That's three. The fourth one is a Nottingham Forest defender. That's four. And the fifth one then can still be an Everton one if you have Mikalenko for cheap. And then that just you just tag along if you don't have funds. If you have funds, then you can obviously go for like an upside Liverpool guy. because they have good fixtures. They keep clean sheets generally, and they could be in the running to finish off the league by 33. Actually, 32 I think is the number that people are looking at, but 33 could be more realistic if they want to be safe. So that could be an option. But because I don't see a good pair of 32 and 33 for defensive fixtures, maybe an Arsenal double up looks like the case. Brentford and Ipswich both look good. So that's always a thing. But again, I would say as a fifth defender, you can decide on how much value you want to put in there.
Yeah, and it comes back on when you want to do your bench boost. If you say
Let's see
you
the
look at
options that you're looking at actually. Do you think there's a third option?
in terms of
Bench boost. Like it's either 32 or 33 most.
32 or 33, I
So
think it purely depends on the Fulham against Crystal Palace fixture. So the way it is if Crystal Palace win against Fulham, Crystal Palace will have a double double, and so you'll be loading up on Crystal Palace. You'll be loaded up on Newcastle, and then if you look at certain teams like Man City, maybe Bournemouth, maybe Arsenal will double for sure then. And maybe you can see if Nottingham Forest might double, or if Brighton, any Aston Villa, any team that has cheap attackers in the double, then you load up on have a few attackers and defenders from their team, but mainly have Newcastle, City, Arsenal, and Crystal Palace in your teams, and have a bench boost in 33. But suppose Crystal Palace lose to Fulham in the FA Cup, then you can bench boost in 32, where you maybe have an Aston Villa, who have Southampton, maybe have a Chelsea defender. I don't think that's too bad at this point. Cucurella might be a decent punt at that point. Have a Brighton defender, maybe if they do play in 34, they have Leicester and West Ham. So in this case, you'll be bench boosting in 32, and you'll be filled with like six players from Newcastle and Crystal Palace, and then players across the league who have decent fixtures to play the bench boost in 32. And then you'll be playing the free hit in 33 anyway, so you don't need to worry about who's doubling in 33. Like in your draft, you don't need to worry about that, and you'll get whoever you had in 32 and 34, because then your Crystal Palace, Newcastle have a definite fixture now, Liverpool have a definite fixture, Arsenal will have a definite fixture if Crystal Palace lose into Fulham. So you'll have these players back in 34. So it's basically you'll be free hitting in 33 in that case, and your bench boost team will be built upon whatever that is. So it's purely dependent on what the result of Crystal Palace against Fulham is. If Crystal Palace win, a double game, a bench boost 33 makes more sense. Crystal Palace lose, a bench boost 32 makes more sense, with free hit in 33.
yeah. And reminding people, and this is honestly my opinion, I don't think bench boost really gets a lot of value out of it as a chip. I think people shouldn't really stress about it too much, which is why again I feel like 30 wildcard seems more sense, because you've just gone out of a bad game week. You might have to make, like, you would have made like knee-jerk transfers for it. You don't want all of your players. There are some other transfers you need to make. I wouldn't really like put my head around too much around bench boost. Whichever game seems suitable, you have 15, just play it out there. It doesn't really make, I have not seen drastic differences like the assistant managership, for example, with the bench boost chip. So on average about 11 to 15 points, and that's about it. So I think don't worry too much into it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the same. I think the more priority would be to get as many doublers in your team as possible.
Yep.
And even if you don't have that, like 12, 13, 14, 15, some people have single game week players, some people have double game.
Yeah,
It's not
it's
too
not.
much of a difference. If you nail the correct, like it's similar to the game week 29 scenario where you had, it doesn't necessarily need to field 11 players as such. You can have 8 or 9 players. But if you have the main players, if you had Bruno Fernandes, for example, you would have scored much more than another free hit team without Bruno Fernandes. You saw a lot of average teams scoring across 30 to 40 points, and Bruno as a captain itself scored 34 points. So
Yeah.
that really makes up for this, and that's how it'll be similar. If you have 15 good, if you have 11 good doublers in game week 33, or whenever the bench boost, like the popular bench boost week is, and you go with that, and maybe also have an assistant manager played along with that, then I think that's as good as it. I don't think there's a sure strategy as well. This is a strategy that I'm leaning towards because of the chips I have left, and the fixtures I'm looking at, and the players I'm trying to back. But I do agree with you. It's largely It's not a definite week to play bench boost. It's just that it's falling well into place for certain
Yeah,
strategies, but you don't need to like think around it
just
too
just,
much.
just don't really worry
It's not.
about when
Yeah.
bench boost really happens. It doesn't really matter till the time you have good players.
Yeah.
Just like having 15 on, even 15 on the field with decent fixtures is just fine, I think. Or
Yeah.
even if like this, they just play that gets you what about 8 points minimum to have in head with. That's good enough, I think. If your players,
Yeah.
even one of your players scores, that's good.
Yeah. um Coming to a couple of other teams, I was actually planning to discuss towards this. um what Another team that's sort of having a likely double game week in 33 is Aston Villa. But I don't think a lot of people are high on Aston Villa at this point, because they're probably more concerned towards the Champions League. I think they're focusing more on that. And also, you're not able to predict their attackers. They're not a really good defense. If you can look at the defensive data, they're 19th. They are that bad in the league. Only Southampton is worse than them in expected goals conceded over the last few weeks. They've conceded 13 big chances as well. Sorry, they've conceded 16 big chances as well. So it's not a good defense at this point. So their defense is definitely ruled out. And also, as a team, in terms of attack, you don't know who's going to play. Asensio is doing well, but he's mostly be on the bench in the Premier League games. Rogers, you don't know when he's playing on the right, when he's playing on the attacking mid play. So
I think
Aston,
sorry, we lost a
yeah,
bit of. Yeah, continue.
I mean, overall, I think that's why Aston Villa will be a total avoid, even though they'll be having a double game week, and they also have Southampton at away in game week 32. In that case, maybe a Rogers for that, but overall, they have very mixed fixtures, and they'll be a complete avoid for me.
Yeah, same for me. I am not really excited about Aston Villa. Who plays where? Even with the Rogers part, like what is a big thing about Rogers is that sort of changed their position. His position, he used to play on the left, even as an up two, or maybe in like a 3-1 situation, he was on the left. Now he's playing on the right, which is like diminished where he lands into the box, how he is around the box, and like it's just not the same scenario until they drastically change something, which I don't think will happen because now they have like more suitable players for those positions. I would stay away from Villa. If someone really still wants to go, maybe Watkins. But again, it's a question of would you go Watkins over likes of Isaac, Haaland, then there is Wood, then there is someone like a Mateta. Maybe one can argue that Crystal Palace have a bad double game week in 32. They were a really tough one, Man City and Newcastle. But do you want to go against?
I don't think it is from an attacking point of view. I don't think it's a bad double gimmick at all. Man City will be played on by Crystal Palace. They will be having a good strategy for them around that. And Newcastle is also not that solid a defense. I think it's going to be an open game as much as anything. I think the Arsenal away fixture is the biggest fixture of concern when you're looking at Crystal Palace's next set of fixtures. I would back their attack and go all out on it.
Yeah, yeah, fair. And I agree. Both defenses are not really tight and solid. So that doesn't seem like and he's Watkins is slightly more expensive as well. So then you'll have to
Yeah.
sort of find funds for him, which again will diminish your bench boost because you need those funds now.
Yeah, and also it's not like he's gonna play 90 minutes every game. They are also focusing on Europe, which is
That's
another
gonna be the
important
primary
thing for them.
target. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the thing with Aston Villa, and I mean after that we can just carry on with discussing the other assets. West Ham and Brighton are sort of of interest for me a little bit. West Ham not so much, but Ariola I think will be a fix in a lot of teams. But if you are bench boosting in 33, they have Southampton at home, so that's a really nice fixture. And if that is a double, they'll have Southampton and Brighton, which really will appeal. Bowen, I think, is a little expensive, and his data is not that great as well. He's sort of very middling data. You can look at it over here. Yeah, he's somewhere eighth or ninth, and it's not like he has overwhelming data to be backed upon. So I think they are a team that can be looked at a little bit if they do double, but and maybe have a cheap defender. They have quite a few cheap defenders who you can back. But yeah, just to touch upon them, Bowen might be in a few drafts, but I don't think I'm too interested on bringing him in either.
Yeah, I'm not looking at him either. Right, I don't think I've seen some resurgence from West Ham in terms of defensive ability. Like they started to keep it more tight sometimes, but that so for a cheap goalkeeper seems okay. I wouldn't look into their attack. There doesn't seem any flair. Bowen also doesn't have those numbers to like talismanically just get you points. So just I would skip on to him. There are other options from like you mentioned, Brighton Minte is still better than Bowen, and it's also sort of a lot of cheaper in sort of price, which can be an option for people who want to go there or want to afford him. But I think the majority attention will be in the other teams they have.
Yeah, which I mean, as you did bring in Minte, and I'd like to take it to Brighton. I'm more interested in Brighton because I do like their fixtures. We have Aston Villa, who we saw as a bad defense. Crystal Palace is fairly decent, but then they're Leicester, Brentford, West Ham, Newcastle, Wolves. I think that's a good bunch of fixtures where you can back their attack more so than defense. But they have been in the up since that 7-0 battering from. Nottingham Forest. They've been having good performances. They've been
Yeah,
keeping a set of good clean sheets as well. So I think I will be interested in some of the Brighton assets more so than some of the other teams we were discussing.
yeah, I agree. There's some case that you can make for the Brighton assets. Really, personally, if you have that sort of slot open, if you want to go slightly differential as well. I'm not too heavy on Brighton as of now. I haven't watched them enough lately, and that's sort of the bias that I'm carrying. But let's see. It's always into consideration with less and less differentials available now.
Yeah, and I think when you look at this table, out of all the teams that are doubling over here, I think Mitoma and Minte are having good stats as well, and they're having good performances. They're playing confident, and I think both of them are sort of nailed at the moment on the wings. It's more whether Jorginho Rutter plays or Welbeck plays, and maybe Joao Pedro gets an odd benching. But I think these two guys have been pretty good for them of late, and the stats also suggest that Minte, especially with the penalty area touches, he has the most out of this list with 49. And he's a very good enabler when you want to have the Salah and Haaland, and maybe also getting other assets like your expensive defenders. You'll need an enabler,
Like
which I think Yankuba Minte does provide really well. He can be on your bench in most weeks. You can play him when you need him. I think that's the part I really like about him. Mitoma is also pretty good. He's been in good form, and he's more talismanic to them as well, and he's more nailed than Minte. So if you have the money, then you can maybe go to a Mitoma as well, who's also been fairly good.
yeah. Moving on to like I have like the dilemma sort of picks. A lot of people going for Ismail Sarr when I look at wildcard drafts. Do you think he's the standout picture pick? I know he's got the form, but when you look beyond 30, given the fixtures, do you think Eze can catch up? Do you think the fixtures
I
are more to Eze?
Yeah, I think it's much closer than what the stats show over here. Uh, Ismail Assar is out of the 4.86 XGI he has in the last 6 games. I think around four of it came just in the 2 games against Aston Villa and Ipswich. Aston Villa were playing around Europe; they were not playing their best, and Ipswich were Ipswich are not great. So it was all focused towards these 2 games, and he's very streaky, as streaky as it gets. We saw it earlier in the season. He had a few good fixtures where he had like 4 5 goals in like 3 4 games, and then he went on a big run of not getting big chances, not scoring in like 6 7 games, or even assisting. So you can get blank after blank from him. But Eze also, I think he's been a little underwhelming for me this season. I would expect him to have much more than just the 2 goals he's had all season, which is really underwhelming. And but he's still very talismanic, and a lot of things go through him for Crystal Palace. And you saw his form towards the end of last season, and if that sort of clicks again, I think he can be a very good asset to own towards the latter part of the season.
Yeah, I think that that's possibly true. It's also the cost. I see there's 1 million, 1.1 million that you
Yeah,
want to save.
1.1 million difference. Yes.
But yeah, Sar is extremely streaky. I've like had him in my team earlier. When he stops scoring, he absolutely stops scoring. So that could be a sign of switching. Uh, but as of now, if you're picking someone, I think Sar is good to start with.
Sar is good. I don't deny that at all. He's been good. He's been good. If they continue clicking, maybe he continues his form as well. I don't think you can see the pattern repeating itself. But I think Eze is really due. So maybe he is the
There's also
underlying
slight
differential over there
differential
to
sort of, yeah, opportunity there. Yeah.
really lift you up. Yeah. Uh,
Okay, pretty much standard with
I
Bournemouth.
Before moving on, I'd just like to touch upon the other City assets other than Haaland. We did discuss about their defense, which has been better of late with the incoming of Nico Gonzalez and Kusanov, but it's really not that promising that they will be keeping clean sheets. And the fixtures are also, other than Leicester at home this week, Man United, Crystal Palace, Everton, Aston Villa, Wolves, Southampton, maybe yes, but in the next 4 weeks, I don't think I see a clean sheet over there. I think all these teams are capable of scoring against Man City because Man City are not a good defense at this point.
Yeah, it's most likely why it's Man City as a defense. There are games that look like clean sheet to me personally. I think the Everton, Aston Villa, these games could be clean sheets. These teams do lack the finesse in them to score goals. They generally tend to have low scoring games. So yes, there is clean sheet potential, but do you want to have a 6 million defender in terms of Guardiola, or get another similar price Arsenal defender? That's sort of the call. And
Yeah,
I'd the Arsenal guy.
you could still go for a Kusanov who's at 5 million and who's pretty nailed at
Yeah,
this
you
point.
can.
And
Yeah,
maybe even go back to Rico Lewis who's at 4.3 who can be on your bench. Because their defense at this moment maybe picks for itself. I don't think Nunes has been great at the right back. But they have Lewis, Kusanov, Diaz, and Guardiola. That's it. Ake is injured, Akanji is injured, Stones is injured, and they are injured for pretty much
yeah,
most of the season from now. So the defense picks itself. So you can maybe go for the cheaper assets. I don't think it's that bad a shout. I'm sure that people will be really uh, will be resistant towards going to Rico Lewis because of the risk of minutes, and he's not been really good this season either. But I don't think it's a bad option if you have good strong defenders elsewhere. I think he's as good as another 4.3 asset. You don't compare him with a Guardiola. You compare him to another 4.3 asset, and maybe there's value over there.
no, I understand the thing. Rico Lewis again. I understand the whole thing with City, but like my only point of going and pitching Gardel is that he has genuine upside without the clean sheet. So that sort of still gives you a good shout to points, and he generally is not rotated. With Rico Lewis, there you'll always have that doubt, and it's Pep. Like he could decide to play his academy kids at one point because the title is gone. He probably is has an easy fixture and he wants to focus on uh,
Yeah,
let's
there's
say
nothing else to focus other than the FA Cup,
pick up. Yeah, maybe,
which is going to be the big fixture of the season. But
yeah.
yeah,
So depends. Honestly, I wouldn't really like on any given day if it doesn't play them, then your bench boost sort of depleted. I don't want to be in that scenario. It's just not too comfortable to be.
fair enough. I mean, I just a point to discuss, but I don't think I'd
Yep.
be going the Rico Lewis way either.
Yep. Okay. I think we've discussed most. There is some sort of disparity in terms of Ilanga, Gibbs White, and Hudson-Odoi. They've been pretty much getting points. I think Ilanga and Gibbs White have had the more share of that and is distributed. I don't see there is a standout player between the Nottingham Forest midfielders if someone is going there. Do you have a bias or do you have some?
I think the price difference really warrants for Elanga, and also over the last few weeks he has been much more attacking. I mean, if I had needed to advise a player to have gone in game week 29, it's also a little bit of hindsight, but I would have told Elanga. And if I didn't go Elanga, but if there was an option that I was considering from Nottingham Forest, it would have been Elanga because he's playing much more advanced than Gibbs White, and he's also taken away all the set pieces from Gibbs White, which does make a much better appeal for him at this point, and he's very electric and could be scoring a good few goals and also gives a few assists. I think he's more involved than Gibbs White. So and the 1.3 price difference is a lot. So I'd go
Yeah,
Elanga.
price difference is a lot. Yeah. But data wise, do you think there is any data or actually eye test wise is there any difference? Because Gibbs White is more central.
Yes,
That's the only difference I think.
he's more central, but over the last few games, if you look at it, I think from what I've seen at least, he's playing little more. of the deep lying playmaker role, and Elanga is more direct and involved inside the box, taking more shots. If you look at, I think shots inside the box is the same, but it's also that sometimes Gibbs White does pop up in some of these corners and take some of the headers. That's probably his shots inside the box, but mostly Elanga is the one who's more involved from the two. So I think I'd go Elanga easily out of the two,
Okay,
and
cool.
I don't think Hudson Odoi is an option at all.
Yeah, fair. I have the same view on Hudson Odoi. Okay, we've discussed pretty much the options. We'd want to jump onto your wildcard draft, how it looks like.
Yes,
Yep,
that's
there we
how it
go.
is at the moment. This is my wildcard draft in Gameweek 30, and it has zero point zero million in the bank. So, and it's not confirmed. I've been tinkering around a few things, but at this point, it has Verbruggen in goal, along with Ariola. Verbruggen is not set, but I do have options around. I'm not going Henderson because I want the Crystal Palace double attack. I might go Raya and another midfield, another defender instead of Timber. That's a good option as well. And also maybe consider Kepa from Bournemouth. But I
Mhm.
don't think I'm really confident about that, and I might need another attacker if I am like downgrading Isak for a double game week player in game week 33.
Okay.
If I'm moving on from Isak after his double game week, I might go for Ivan Elson. So that will probably block me off from the third Bournemouth. So at this moment, I'm either Verbruggen or Raya. I think the fixtures for Brighton are good, and they rotate decently with West Ham as well. So, which makes me feel like I can go with this pair, cheap defense, cheap goalkeeper.
Yep.
Yeah. Defense, I have Gabriel and Timber double up Arsenal. I've been speaking about Arsenal defense highly, and I do see value over there. I've been double Arsenal defense for almost all of the season from since my wildcard in Game Week 6, and I've kept patience with it, and I'm willing to continue keeping patience with it, and it does reward me every now and then. And I think I did mention it briefly for Gabriel. The return of Saka might really benefit Timber as well. Timber has been one of their best defenders this season, and I don't think he's gonna give his place away for Ben White. I think Ben White will be slowly just like getting back his fitness, mostly for next season. But I think Timber's overlapping was very good when Saka was there. I think Timber will benefit from the return of Saka too. So I do like of the duo over there. Munoz, we've spoken about it. He picks himself. He's just fantastic value at this point, and he'll be more or less template in every team. I have Burn as my fourth defender, who will be playing in the next couple of weeks, mostly uh, the week he doubles. The week maybe he plays Leicester. I will consider benching Timber or something, but mostly is not going to play that much after that. It's purely going to be the double Arsenal defense and Munoz. So I would like to keep a cheap defender, and that's the same reason I've gone for Housen over Kirkes. I've been having Kirkes for a few weeks. I've liked it, but I
Yep.
think I'm not going to play him too much. So I think Housen is a safer bet at that point. And like when you need him, maybe if there's a double, he comes in and you play him for that, but not mostly other than that. Coming to my midfield, Mo Salah is a lock. I don't think there's any point thinking about removing him at this point. Um, and maybe he's chasing all the records and everything speaks for itself. I don't think I'll need to discuss too much about him. But there is one point that I'm not going to captain him in any of the next 3 weeks, which does make it feel like I don't think I'll be getting his like maximum points anyways. It's not going to be maximizing at much. So in game week 33, if there is a bench boost scenario, if there is a scenario where Saka as well as Bruno look like good options, they have double in game 33. Again, very like hypothetical scenario. Even though Salah is Leicester, I might be open to doing the move from Salah to Saka and maybe Murphy to Bruno to get both the doublers instead of both single game week players. That is also because I can come to this particular chart where you would this is the just the last 4 game weeks of the season. Liverpool have Chelsea away, Arsenal at home, Brighton away, Crystal Palace at home. And I'm not sure I'll be captaining him in any of these fixtures other than maybe Crystal Palace. So which
Yep.
might maybe seem that you can go a little different towards the end of the season. But again, large thoughts. Salah will probably score three hauls in the next 3 game weeks, and you're not gonna think about selling him. But that's just a large thought. But at this point, he's a lock in this game in this wildcard draft. The
Yep.
other lock in this team will be Kluivert. I think he's looked very lively. He's really involved in terms of Bournemouth chances. Bournemouth look good. I don't think their recent results will really hurt the chances of Kluivert continuing to be good. And he's on penalties and could be having a double game week. So at this point, Justin Kluivert is also a lock in this team.
Yeah, and the rest picks up.
Uh,
The forward at least pick
yeah,
themselves up.
the the forward picks themselves up. I don't think there's much discussing in terms of the forward. I think Haaland, Isak, Mateta will be my three forwards. Isak, Mateta as they are doubling. Haaland is the best captaincy option game week 30. If he doubles in game week 33, maybe there is a chance I will go without Haaland if I'm going if so, suppose Crystal Palace lose to Fulham, and that means I'm going to free hit in game week 33, and Haaland is likely to double game week 33. I might go without Haaland and optimize my the rest of my team with better players and sort of have a different strategy for that. I've not really thought about that wild card. This wild card is purely looking at Crystal Palace if they win. If I do if I do free hit, I will need to know more information on who's going to double at
Yeah,
that point. So that'll be a decision I'll make after the FA Cup results and like be open to it. So Haaland is not definitely a lock, but Isak and Mateta are. Um, just finishing off with the midfield, Murphy. I'm going here purely because he's very cheap, and I don't think I've considered Gordon, but he's not going to play Brentford, and it's just going to be Leicester away and the double game week. And after that, I'm going to move on from the Newcastle asset,
Newcastle guy.
which means I just think that Murphy is a better option
Yeah,
in this draft. And that also enables a few more expensive assets in the team. Sar and Mitoma can be Eze and Minte, so like they are just like one Brighton and one Crystal Palace spot. The Brighton spot could also be Nottingham Forest. I don't think any Nottingham Forest are there in this team, but it can be Nottingham Forest as well. Can be Elanga and Eze. So it's not confirmed that Mitoma spot could be anyone, but then there'll be a Crystal Palace midfielder, either Sar or Eze. Yeah, I think largely this is what my thoughts are at this point. Yeah, any thoughts? I think I've gone on a monologue here.
yeah, you've pretty much covered everything. I don't have much to add there. I'm not a huge fan of the Brighton guy, personally, and that's like two. And I would have still have Kirkes because despite how much ever faith we have in Arsenal, I would still want to play a Kirkes over Arsenal double versus Fulham and Arsenal double versus Brentford at possible. So I'm not going to drop Kirkes from my team at least, and I'm not going to go for a Brighton asset. That's the only two difference or changes I would make. But pretty much the
Hmm.
same then. Yep.
Yeah, I think I just like maybe go a little more thought about it and look at my
Yeah,
benching
benching
patterns.
sort of.
Then
Yeah,
maybe I can still go for a Raya back and not go with the Timber and then go with the Kirkes instead of Housen. That's
yeah,
not a bad option either.
yeah, that's also a possibility.
Um,
Yep. I
yeah,
think
moving on.
bit too.
Something I just wanted to touch up before we finish is the last 4 game weeks. I think a lot will be invested in the next few game weeks, and just to keep an eye on the last 4 game weeks. Something I was also looking at, and I don't think the fixtures are great for a lot of teams. So and the the teams with very good fixtures are Leicester, Leicester, Everton, Ipswich, West Ham, where you're not going to have too many assets, and it's purely Brentford, Nottingham Forest, and Man City. So if Nottingham Forest do win in the FA Cup, there's a possibility that Nottingham Forest and Brentford could double in 35, which is just another thought that I think should be kept in mind when you're looking at the FA Cup results, and maybe then going to Nottingham Forest and Brentford, one or two of these assets, maybe Embumo, maybe Elanga in your team, might really make more sense
I
at that point.
No, I would still drop them on wildcard because you look at Crystal Palace guys, and that's like a good exit after 34. So as soon as you reach to 34, either through free hit or what, or like after playing bench boost, you most likely want to ditch off them with the Sar, Mateta, and jump on your Nottingham Forest guys. So I don't think people need to really factor
Yeah,
that in.
that's a fair point. That's a fair point. Maybe even jumping off Bournemouth,
Yeah,
who
seems
have Aston Villa at home and Leicester at home, but then they have Arsenal away and Man City away, which are not great.
yeah,
But yeah, I think this just brings like to the end of the discussion. I think towards the end of the season, I don't think Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea, all three teams don't have great fixtures, and also makes Haaland the standout captain at this point. If not,
fast in the
I
season. Yeah,
maybe just Arsenal have Southampton Gameweek 38, but other than that, it seems to be Haaland towards the end of the season.
yeah, yeah. Actually, Liverpool Crystal Palace wouldn't be that bad. The Salah does have last two game weeks as good. I'm actually not that much against the Salah captains in the last four. Like Chelsea, Brighton, Crystal all look like teams that can concede. But
Hmm.
Haaland looks like a safer option with Wolves, Fulham, than Southampton, Bournemouth as those four in some order.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a far fetched. Like from the context of things, this seems far fetched. But just to touch upon this and like look at the how the fixtures are towards the end of the season, because that might also have a say in the kind of assets you want, especially also the defensive assets in terms of your rotations and all of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that is that. Anything else you have to talk about?
No, I think we pretty much discussed Wildcard 30 why and the pros about it. And yeah, seems good. Uh,
Okay. Any last words? And like how likely are you for your team?
I'm
In
most
terms of
likely I'm
wildcard?
gonna pull the trigger. I'm 99% on it. I didn't have a great. I have a good team for. I had a good team for 29, but I don't have a great exit. I think it's and it also give me one more week of a more stable team. So I'm always in favor of making the most out of
Yeah.
bench boost. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, the thing I like also is Brentford at home for Newcastle, Southampton for Crystal Palace, Leicester for City, Ipswich for Bournemouth. These are very good fixtures
Yep.
that can be really looked at and have a great Game Week 30 team. And I do like the look of Game Week 30 at this point. And
Yep.
also want to captain Haaland, who's against Leicester, and Leicester are pretty awful at this point
Yeah.
and
Yep.
will be conceding a lot of chances, which just brings that over there and puts it. So I will be probably triggering, but I'm not sure when I will, because I have exactly zero point 0.0 in the bank with this draft. But I'm not really likely to go with this draft either. I might be downgrading some assets over there. But yeah, I think mostly I will be waiting for the FA Cup results. I think that's more important than triggering the wild card.
Yep.
And I think you won't have anything for sure. Like there were a lot of
I
things
think
that were ifs and buts todays and not sure's when it comes to the fixtures in Game Week 32 33. So I'd wait till the FA Cup results before making my decision.
no, I'm gonna pull it irrespective because it's only a question of who I get into my team rather than whether I'm wildcarding or not. Like FA Cup fixtures would just change the sort of structure maybe a bit, not my intention to wildcard. So I'm gonna make
Yeah.
up on the
I
value.
think I think the core of the team is still going to be there.
It's more or
The
less the same for me.
Haaland and triple Newcastle, triple Crystal Palace, double Arsenal, and Salah.
Yeah.
Um, so I think because the core is there, and I don't, I from this entire team, I currently only have Salah and Gabriel. I think that's it. So this is the team I'd like to ideally have, and I have only two players from that, and I'm not sure that that's really optimal at this point. So I probably go towards getting this.
Yep. Okay. Seems good.
Yeah,
We wrapped up like a long discussion. I think we had a good long discussion. We like to see how people end up with their wildcard, what they're thinking, and their thoughts as well. So make sure you leave those thoughts down in the comments below. And yeah, I'm pretty much excited. I think we should post our drafts too and see how we end up before Game Week 30.
yeah. I think that would be a good thing to put out just before. Maybe I come back with another video before the game week
A
30
finalized, yeah, a
one
finalized draft.
in terms of a final wildcard draft, which will be after the FA Cup results. maybe on Sunday or the Monday. But I think until then, enjoy the international break. I think it's a good time to pod as well. It's not too heavy, and it's like very like brainstorming in terms of what your wild card is, and not too much pressure at this point, not too much overthinking. I think there's a lot more time to think about these things, and it's a good way to end the pod. And yeah, with that, please hit the like, share, and subscribe if you did like it. And yeah,
Yeah.
we'll probably come back again soon. But until then, this is Akhilesh and Anshuman signing off from the FPL Tips YouTube channel. See you.